We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude. It's it's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood.
Nothing has brought me greater joy in recent weeks than watching the Walt Disney Company absolutely lose its mind. For decades, Disney was the gold standard in family entertainment, but now it's turned into a PR disaster machine. And recently, it got hit with one of the most brutal pop culture critiques yet, a satirical smackdown by South Park. Yes, the long-running, no-holds-barred adult cartoon series that's offended literally every group imaginable is now setting its sights on Disney, and particularly on its so-called woke content strategy. In its special episode titled Into the Panderverse, South Park goes where few mainstream voices dare to go. It unapologetically mocks Disney's diversity tactics, their obsession with remakes, and the controversy surrounding actress Rachel Zegler's portrayal of Snow White. Let's break it all down.
All over the set that are apple flavored. And that hurts my feelings.
I was gonna say, I haven't.
It's like they don't know what happens to me. There's going to be so many stories that come from the set about how difficult I am to work with simply because I don't want apple.
First off, let's talk about the South Park episode that kicked off this storm. Into the Panderverse takes the show's core characters, Cartman, Stan, Kenny, and Butters, and reimagines them as adult women of color. Not just any women, but exaggerated, one-dimensional versions designed specifically to parody Disney's habit of race-swapping and gender-swapping classic characters. It's satire, and it's meant to be offensive. That's the point. And in typical South Park fashion, it's not subtle. The episode paints a world where corporate studios, like Disney, live in fear of social backlash, so they race to prove how progressive they are by making surface-level changes to beloved characters. Sound familiar? Now enter Rachel Zegler, the actress cast as Snow White in Disney's upcoming live-action remake. From the moment her casting was announced, controversy erupted. Snow White is supposed to have skin as white as snow, a defining part of her character and the story's symbolism. Zegler, a Latina actress, clearly doesn't fit that description, and for many fans this isn't about race, it's about storytelling integrity. But what really poured fuel on the fire was Zegler's attitude in interviews. Instead of embracing the role, she openly trashed the original movie. She called it outdated, criticized the love story, and suggested Snow White doesn't need a prince. She even joked that the prince could be cut entirely. That's not exactly what fans want to hear from someone playing a classic Disney princess. In fact, in one particularly tone-deaf moment, Zegler complained about apple-flavored snacks on set, joking that they were insensitive because Snow White gets poisoned by an apple. It's this kind of snarky, ungrateful attitude that's turned even casual fans against her. But back to South Park. The episode isn't just about Rachel Zegler. She's a symbol of a larger issue, Disney's growing obsession with what critics call performative wokeness. Instead of creating new, diverse stories, the studio keeps retrofitting existing ones. They're not writing better roles for underrepresented groups. They're taking old ones, changing the race or gender of the characters, and patting themselves on the back. The problem? It's lazy, it feels corporate, and most importantly, it usually doesn't work. Audiences can tell when they're being pandered to. That's why South Park dubbed their parody Into the Panderverse, because Disney isn't pushing boundaries, it's checking boxes. Let's look at the bigger picture. Disney has made several live-action remakes over the years: Cinderella, Aladdin, Beauty, and the Beast. Some were hits, others flopped. But recently there's been a shift. Instead of simply modernizing the classics, they've started re-engineering them. Earlier this year, Disney released a live-action Little Mermaid with Halle Bailey, an incredibly talented black actress, cast as Ariel. Again, the backlash wasn't entirely about race. For many, it was about the decision to change a character's core visual identity without adjusting the story. And while The Little Mermaid stuck closer to the original plot than Snow White seems to, it still sparked intense online debates. In Snow White's case, the changes go even further. The 7 dwarfs have been removed, the prince has been minimised or eliminated, the romantic subplot is gone. What's left is a character that bears little resemblance to the original, and that's what makes the South Park episode so effective. It doesn't just joke about race swapping, it points out how the heart of these stories is being lost. Characters like Snow White were never about gender politics, they were about magic, innocence, and emotional growth. Changing the window dressing doesn't change the core story, and removing that core makes the story hollow. Let's not forget, South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone aren't new to this. They've made fun of Disney before, most notably with their parody of Mickey Mouse as a tyrannical corporate overlord obsessed with image control. They've lampooned Disney's handling of Star Wars, their control over Marvel, and their general That's likely because Disney is already struggling. After the underwhelming performance of several remakes, the company is facing both financial and reputational backlash. Executives like Bob Iger are under pressure to deliver results. Besides, some think it's gone too woke, others say it hasn't gone far enough. And in trying to please everyone, they're pleasing no one. According to industry rumors, Disney is not happy with South Park. There are even whispers that they're trying to prevent similar episodes from airing in the future. Good luck with that. South Park has made a career out of mocking sacred cows, and right now, Disney is the fattest cow on the block. So, where does this leave us? Audiences are smarter than Disney thinks. We know when diversity is authentic, and we know when it's a marketing ploy. South Park's point isn't that diversity is bad, it's that fake diversity is insulting. Real representation means creating new stories, not recycling old ones with new skin tones. Rachel Zegler's casting wouldn't be such a problem if she showed any love for the role. But when your lead actress actively mocks the film she's in, and when the studio seems more focused on headlines than heart, it's no wonder fans are tuning out. The magic is gone, the nostalgia is dead, and all we're left with is a hollow shell of a fairy tale. In the end, South Park said what so many fans have been thinking. Disney needs to stop pandering, stop chasing trends, and start respecting the stories that made them great in the first place. And if they can't do that, maybe it's time someone else took the reins. So what do you think? Did South Park go too far, or did they hit the nail on the head? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this.
All the people who are up in my DMs trying to guess what character I'm playing, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to answer your DMs.
From Disney's throne to the sidelines, how Rachel Zegler went from princess to a cultural misfire. In the world of entertainment, no one stays on top forever, but rarely do we witness a rise and fall as sharp as that of Rachel Zegler. The young actress, once praised for her performance in West Side Story, suddenly found herself at the centre of a media storm following the disastrous reception of the new Snow White film, a project that was meant to revive one of Disney's most beloved fairy tales. The problem wasn't just the numbers.
1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that
she's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Yeah.
Weird.
Everything. From empty cinema halls to scathing reviews, brutal comparisons, and reports of backstage tensions.
Jeffrey Bezos. Jeffrey Bezos. You did it!
It became painfully clear that this film didn't just flop artistically, it failed in message, branding, and audience connection. Ghost Town premieres reports began pouring in during the film's opening week. YouTube and TikTok users documented something eerie: Snow White screenings with no audience. Footage of massive theatres with a single viewer, or often none at all, went viral. In one particularly shocking case, a mother...
Excuse me, Your curtain. Please allow me to help.
Help? From you?
I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you should know that
That I should know what? That some privileged white guy thinks his opinion matters? Get over your entitlement. I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for
revealed her young daughter watched the film completely alone in a huge auditorium. It felt less like a movie screening and more like a private wake for a story no one cared about anymore. This wasn't just a commercial failure, it was a cultural rejection. Meanwhile, Minecraft destroys the box office. While Disney scrambled for explanations, Minecraft took the world by storm. Based on the popular video game, the film didn't carry classic fairy tale nostalgia or a royal heroine. But it brought something Snow White lacked: excitement, heart, and genuine fan love. In its first week, Minecraft pulled in over $157 million domestically, compared to Snow White's meager $42 million. Globally, it surged past $720 million, while Zegler's film struggled to cross the $200 million mark, despite heavy marketing. Message over magic. But the numbers were only half the story. What made Snow White's failure feel so complete was how Zegler approached the role itself. In multiple interviews, she proudly distanced herself from the original fairy tale, stating the story had to be updated for 2022, and even called the prince's affection in the original weird and stalkerish. To many, it felt like an attack on Disney's own legacy. Zegler came across as disdainful, detached, and unwilling to connect with the fans who loved the original. In contrast, Minecraft star Jack Black spoke fondly of the game, how he played it with his kids, and how he immersed himself in the world to understand its audience. The difference in tone and respect was hard to ignore. Behind the scenes, growing tensions. The tension wasn't just external. Sources close to the production claimed growing friction between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen. Gadot was reportedly frustrated with how Zegler promoted the film and blamed her for damaging its public image. Rumours swirled that Gadot even took legal action, accusing Zegler of knowingly harming the project's reputation despite repeated warnings from the studio. The audience responds loudly. Online, the backlash was swift and brutal. Zegler's social media accounts were flooded with criticism, leading her to restrict comments. Even on progressive lead...
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't...
In platforms like Reddit, the tone shifted. People weren't rejecting diversity or modern takes. They were rejecting the mockery of the stories they grew up loving. You can't insult the original story, mock the fans, and expect them to give you their money, one user wrote. That comment captured the sentiment of many. Audiences want to be respected, not lectured. Disney in crisis mode. Inside Disney, the mood reportedly turned grim. Industry insiders suggested the company was rethinking its future remake strategies and had quietly halted early development on a live-action Tangled reboot. It wasn't just a financial loss, it was a brand crisis. Disney, once the symbol of dreams and magic, had started to feel like a factory of empty reboots and broken nostalgia. A second chance? Shockingly, Rachel Zegler hasn't vanished from the spotlight entirely. Despite the disaster, she landed a role in an upcoming indie film, playing the daughter of a character portrayed by Marisa Tomei. The announcement left many puzzled. How does she keep getting roles after such a high-profile flop? Some argue she remains a darling of progressive circles in Hollywood, where controversy is seen as conversation. But increasingly, that buzz is starting to feel more like static. The end, or a cultural turning point. In the end, this isn't just a story about a failed film or a miscast actress. It's about a tired audience, frustrated with having their childhood stories repackaged with political sermons and stripped of wonder. Snow White didn't just fall flat, it exposed a deeper disconnect between modern Hollywood and the people it's supposed to entertain. Perhaps Zegler deserves another chance. Or perhaps this was the moment the fairy tale stopped working. Not because it was old, but because no one believed in it anymore.